Hi, everyone. Welcome to our online engagement event for the Willows neighborhood. My name is Natalie Bode, and I'm the Senior Transportation Engineer responsible for neighborhood traffic portfolio. I'm joined tonight by Katie Sapia, who's the Project Manager for the Willows Neighborhood Traffic Review. And we're also joined tonight by Marinelle Flores, another member of the Neighborhood Traffic Review team, and she will be helping us behind the scenes. We look forward to working with you to address the ongoing traffic concerns that you have in your neighborhood. Tonight's meeting is intended to address the existing traffic concerns in your neighborhood. We've had a lot of questions from residents asking about questions regarding the Willows concept plan amendment. And any traffic concerns that are a result of the concept plan amendment should be sent to Anastasia Conley, who is the contact for that project. So we'll put her name in the chat box. So if you have any questions, you can give her an email or a call. So let me just get that in the chat box for you. So tonight, the meeting will be recorded and posted to the Engage page for anyone who's unable to attend tonight's Neighborhood Traffic Review meeting. They'll be able to watch the video and let us know if they have any comments or questions about the draft traffic plan. So to ensure that our meeting runs as smoothly as possible, we'll ask that you type your comments in the question and answer box, and I'll be reading those out. I apologize in advance if you have some delays in your video stream. Sometimes that happens with our team's meetings. If you are having difficulty, turning on the closed captioning may help you follow along. If you're unable to type your questions in the question and answer box, please feel free to reach out to us through one of our other engagement methods. We have options for email, phone, online survey. You can send us a letter or report a traffic issue in the traffic issue app. And we also have the Discus forum on the Projects Engage page. So we'll provide details for all of those contacts a little bit later in the meeting. We've also prepared a video series on the Project Engage page that you can access. It contains valuable information about the traffic review process, how we collect and analyze the traffic data for your neighborhood, and various other topics that we often hear about during our neighborhood traffic reviews. I encourage you to watch the series if you'd like to learn more. We just won't have time tonight to cover all of that information. We're hoping to hear from you and your neighbors tonight on the draft traffic plan that we'll be discussing. We currently have 7 of you signed into the meeting right now, so thanks for joining us and representing your community. We can't complete these neighborhood traffic reviews without your participation, so thanks for doing that. Before we begin, I would like to make a couple of introductions, but we might have to postpone them to a little bit later. Councillor Marin Lowen is your council representative for your neighborhood, and she will be joining us for tonight's meeting, but she did have another commitment, so she may be a few minutes late. So we'll introduce her when she's able to join. And we are usually joined by a member of the traffic unit of the Saskatoon Police Service, so they can answer your enforcement questions. But unfortunately, Staff Sergeant Trent Emig was unable to join us for tonight's event. So if you have any enforcement questions or comments, you can pass them on to us and we'll forward them over to police, or you can call the traffic unit directly, and I'll post that phone number in the chat box for you. For tonight's session, we'll start with Katie's presentation with an overview of the neighborhood traffic review process, the changes that we are proposing in the draft traffic plan, and the next steps for the project. So usually when we have these meetings in person, we break out into small working groups at tables with a large map, and we discuss each recommendation as we go through. Unfortunately, we aren't able to see you face to face, so we're going to try to replicate that process as closely as we can. So as Katie goes through each recommendation, I'll monitor the question and answer forum, and we'll discuss each recommendation that way. So Katie, if you'd like to begin your presentation, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Katie Sapia, and I am the project manager for the Willows Neighborhood Traffic Review. To start things off, I want to get us oriented within the neighborhood. The map on your screen shows the study area, which is bound by Lorne Avenue to the west, city limits to the south, Clarence Avenue to the east, and the CN rail tracks to the north. The focus of the neighborhood traffic review is existing traffic concerns on the local and collector streets. Arterial streets, such as Lorne Avenue and Clarence Avenue, are outside of the scope of the neighborhood traffic review. In terms of our progress within the neighborhood traffic review process, we have already completed stages 1 and 2, which involved identifying traffic problems within the neighborhood, collecting data, and developing a plan to address those problems. We are now in stage 3 of the schedule, which involves presenting our proposed solution to the public in the form of a draft traffic plan, collecting feedback on that draft traffic plan, making any necessary changes or adjustments to the plan, preparing a report with a final version of the traffic plan, and presenting the final report to the Standing Policy Committee on Transportation. We anticipate that this stage of the schedule will be completed this spring. I'll discuss the next steps later in the presentation. I would now like to go over some of the concerns that we heard from the residents in the neighborhood. We have heard of speeding on Cartwright Street and shortcutting through the neighborhood to bypass the CN rail crossing on Lorne Avenue. We have heard of missing sidewalks throughout the neighborhood and the request for a pedestrian crosswalk in front of the Woodbridge condos. And other concerns we have received were insufficient lighting between the golf course and the German Concordia Club, lots of wildlife, vehicle noise, a lack of police presence, and high truck volumes. After gathering these concerns, we began our data collection program, including a number of site visits to gather field observations of road conditions and traffic patterns, traffic volume counts and speed studies at 3 locations within the neighborhood, and collision data analysis for the neighborhood to identify locations with collision trends. We used the results of our data collection program to create a draft traffic plan that recommends several changes and improvements to streets within the neighborhood. In the next few slides, I will go over each of the recommendations in detail, but in general, we are proposing a number of improvements such as median islands, speed display devices, and sidewalks. As we go through each recommendation, there will be an opportunity for you to provide feedback by typing your comments into the chat box, which Natalie will be monitoring. Our first recommendation is a speed display device facing eastbound and westbound traffic on Cartwright Street between Lorne Avenue and where Cartwright Street splits. An example of what the speed display board looks like is shown on this slide. Speed display boards are installed temporarily since they lose their effectiveness if installed in the same location for too long. In addition to the speed display devices, we will forward the speed data we collect to the Saskatoon Police Service so that they can consider this information when deploying their enforcement officers. The second location is the intersection of Cartwright Street and Cartwright Terrace. We are proposing installing a median island on the south leg of the intersection. Here's an example of what a median island looks like that is installed elsewhere in Saskatoon. The third recommendation is to install sidewalks and pedestrian accessible ramps along the north and east side of Cartwright Street. We would construct the sidewalk and ramps according to the sidewalk infill program and curb ramp program. A recommendation for new sidewalks in a neighborhood traffic review will increase the priority for that location within the sidewalk infill program. If there are any further concerns or comments that we haven't discussed yet, type them into the chat box, please, and Natalie will go over them.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything come through the chat box yet, but I see a few new people have signed into the meeting. We're up to 10 attendees now. So thanks for joining us tonight. We're just discussing some of the recommendations in the traffic plan and hoping to get some feedback. So Mary Neil, can you just go back to the first one, the speed display boards on Lorne Avenue? Some people might be actively typing in now, so we'll just go back to the first recommendation and see if there's any feedback there. There is one comment here related to the sidewalk recommendation that just came in. The city needs to extend the sidewalk on the north side of Cartwright past 401 to the end of the building. Last month, they had an emergency issue that the city fire department was called to, and the emergency exit is at the far west end of the building. So they had to walk over the snowbank onto the road. So 401 Cartwright. I'm not sure, Mary Neil, do you have the Google Maps so we can kind of just make sure we understand this comment? And can you? Okay, so on the north side, they want to extend that west to the end of the building. Yeah, okay, so can you bring back the recommendation slide, Mary Neil? Because I think the recommendation does show the sidewalk past that.
Yes, the recommendation, I believe, goes to the end of the condos there.
Yes, yeah, so that hopefully addresses that concern. And then someone's asking about the median island, where it would go and what is the reason for it. I think they joined a little bit late, so if you can just describe that one again.
Yeah, so the median island would go on the south leg of the intersection of Cartwright Street and Cartwright Terrace. That's to slow traffic down. It's a horizontal deflection method that we use. And the next slide shows an example of what it would look like.
Okay. So someone made the comment, those features are great for the existing owners in the Willows, but are not adequate for future development. So as I explained at the beginning of the meeting, or did you want to go over that, Katie?
Oh, yeah, this, as Natalie had mentioned, this process is just to address existing traffic concerns. Any future concerns that might result from the development. If you have any concerns with those, I would recommend sending those to Anastasia Conley, and her information is in the chat box.
Okay, perfect. And somebody asked, what about speeding on Cartwright directly west of Clarence? Has this been considered? So I think yes. Between the Roundabout and Clarence, yeah.
Yeah, so we did put some devices there to monitor the speeding, and we found that so we measured the 85th percentile, which is the speed at which 85% of the vehicles are traveling at or below. And at this location, we found the 85th percentile to be 51 kilometers per hour. So to do any traffic calming measures according to our policy, they are only warranted when the speed limits are above or at 5 kilometers per hour over the posted speed limit. So at 51 kilometers per hour, it's less than what's warranted.
And the person with the sidewalk comment clarified here that we did not go far enough west with that north side. They said we need to go past the golf cart pathway under the road, I think.
Okay, yeah, we had looked at that. That would require to go past the golf cart way all the way to the connection. We would need to extend the bridge to do that. So we did not look at doing. We're not recommending extending that bridge.
And then there's another question. Will there be a crosswalk where the median island is?
That would be dependent. I guess that would be part of the consideration for the development. At this time, we would not build a crosswalk since there's nothing on either. There's nothing on the west side for people to access at this moment.
Yeah, so the crosswalk would be installed when the sidewalk is built.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
If warranted.
If we'd review it then. And somebody's suggesting that the median island may actually be dangerous and it could be a problem for snow clearing in the winter.
Yes, so we add the signage to indicate to our maintenance crew that it's there, so they clear it accordingly. Yeah,
so sometimes it's an issue for snow clearing while it's in temporarily because they pull up the rubber curbs, but once it goes into concrete, their blade follows that curb line, usually. And it's a standard traffic calming device and has the signage appropriate to indicate it for drivers. Oh, and then the sidewalk person clarified just up to the bridge, that the sidewalk would have to go just up to the bridge on the north side.
Okay. We did not look at going that far since it would end kind of nowhere for anyone to go after it reaches the end. So we were going to end it at the condos for the entire length of the condo.
Okay, and someone's commented that they've lived in the Willows for 15 years and do not feel that there have been any significant traffic issues. I think there's always a few folks who complain about every speeder or truck that passes through. We walk along the road all the time and vehicles are respectful and usually easily pull over because the traffic is so little in this area. I don't believe anything needs to be done other than posting a speed trap at the west end of Cartwright Street from time to time.
Oh, thank you for the positive feedback. We always appreciate hearing the good along with the concerns.
And someone's asked about the reliability of the traffic data collected with the 2020 pandemic and its effect on traffic patterns. Okay. And then they asked about what percentage exits to Lorne versus Clarence, if we have that information.
We can determine that information. We didn't calculate it at this time, but we can look at that. And in terms of the reliability, we've actually been monitoring traffic volumes throughout the city throughout this pandemic, and we waited until traffic volumes reached an acceptable level of what they previously were before we started collecting data.
Yeah, we also didn't want to postpone doing traffic reviews indefinitely. We don't know if normal will ever be completely normal. So once it reached near normal is when we started doing data collection. So somebody's asking when the traffic numbers were counted and what was the number. So I think they're looking for the traffic volume data.
Yes, it was September. It was after, I can't remember the exact date. It was in September sometime, I believe.
Yeah, and I would just add that we count the data for 7 days, 24 hours a day. So it's a kind of an average over a week.
Yeah.
So,
and
I don't know.
Another part. Was there another part of the question? Oh, what was the data?
What was the volume? Yeah.
Volumes. So we had 2,991 vehicles per day on Cartwright between Clarence and the Roundabout. And then we had 1,207 vehicles per day between the Roundabout and where Cartwright Street splits. And then 1,215 vehicles per day where the street splits and Lorne Avenue.
Okay, let me just go back to the chat. Somebody has a question about snow clearing on Cartwright Terrace. It's often not done, so having the median on that south leg could complicate snow clearing efforts even further.
Sorry, can you repeat the first part?
That snow clearing on Cartwright Terrace is just not usually done very well. So they're just concerned with the median island being installed on Cartwright Street, just south of that intersection, that it will complicate snow clearing efforts even more.
Okay. Yeah, if with the concern regarding snow clearing on Cartwright Terrace, we can definitely forward that on to the maintenance or roadways department. I don't know if you have anything else for that, Natalie.
Yeah, I would just say that we run the recommendations by our teams, so we can just ensure that they don't foresee any issues with that before we finalize the traffic plan. We'll look for their feedback to see if they have difficulties there. Somebody's asking about the average speed of vehicles between Cartwright Terrace and the German Club.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So our 85th percentile was 67 kilometers per hour between Lorne Avenue and where Cartwright Street splits. And then between where Cartwright Street splits and the roundabout, it was 58 kilometers per hour.
Okay. Yeah, I was hoping we could bring up the slide, but it looks like it's not in the presentation right now. So so the comment, I guess, is that summer traffic due to the golf course might not have been captured in our count.
We made sure to that the golf course was still open when we did our traffic count.
There's a comment here. I appreciate the traffic calming measures suggested, including the addition of sidewalks. I disagree with the frequency of speeders that another poster shared. We back Cartwright Street and there are definitely many a week. Yeah, thanks for that feedback. We do a data-driven process, so there were definitely speeds confirmed west on the west end of Cartwright Street, and on the east end, most drivers seem to be complying with the posted speed limit. And here's someone who echoes the concern about snow clearing around Cartwright Terrace.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, we'll definitely forward that on.
Yeah, sounds good. And somebody has a comment that the speeds you mentioned are 34 above the posted speed limit. Yeah, it's it was quite high on that west end. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Someone's asking if we can get the raw data that was collected.
I don't believe we typically provide that, Natalie. Would you?
Yeah, the raw data's it's just not presented in a way that's easy to understand. It's just an Excel spreadsheet with different bins. So usually what we include in the report is a table summarizing the volume and the speeds for each location that was done, and we include that in the report. And someone's asking, when was the last traffic study before 2020? I'm not sure, Carrie, if you can clarify if that was specifically for the Willows or if that was citywide that you're wondering about. And somebody's asking about the review for the Willows amendment plan, if we know when that'll be done. I haven't heard from Anastasia. Katie, have you?
No, I'm not sure where that's at this time.
Yeah.
I believe they're still accepting feedback at this time though, so I would encourage you to get in touch with her if you'd like to provide feedback.
Yeah, I think there might be a project engage page for that as well that I can try to look up behind the scenes here. Oh yeah, Carrie clarified it's for the Willows only. When was the last traffic study done before 2020?
I'm not sure. I have not done one prior to this. Natalie, I don't know if you...
Yeah, I don't recall anything happening on Cartwright Street in recent years. I can double check the ADTs that we list on the city website, but I don't think there's been any formal review done for Cartwright Street until now. Somebody says they agree with the last comment, but that was at 7:19, so I'm not too sure which comment that was related to. I think that, yeah, sorry about that. I should have read that off a little earlier. Somebody's asking again about the collection dates and the data points, so I think we've answered that one.
Yeah.
And somebody's wondering what is the change of the delta of those points for east versus west.
So they were fair. I can't remember exactly. They were fairly similar for the between Lorne Avenue and Cartwright Street where it splits, and between the Roundabout and Clarence Avenue, they were fairly similar. But between the Roundabout and where Cartwright Street splits, they were higher going northbound and lower going southbound. The exact split, I want to say the northbound was in the 60s and the southbound was about 54.
Okay, and I've just pulled up the concept plan amendment engage page, so I'll post that in the chat as well. It looks like public consultation is ongoing and they don't have a date listed for when it goes to the Municipal Planning Commission. Okay. Somebody's asking what was the highest speed recorded on the west end of Cartwright Street? They often have, on Fridays and evenings, auto dealers frequently demo cars at very high speeds, Audi, BMW, Porsche, etc.
The highest speed, I don't have that with me. The 85th percentile speed, though, was 67 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, there are often higher speeds than we measure at 85th. Like obviously at 85% of drivers is going that speed or lower. So there are always some extreme speeders. We just unfortunately can't design the streets for that level of driver. There will always be some people who push the extremes, and it's just not feasible to design a street to accommodate all of that. So we go with the 85th percentile because we're capturing the majority of drivers. Somebody's asking if these recommendations will be implemented before work begins on phase 3 in the Willows. So I think we'll cover that in the next steps. Sorry, Katie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll cover implementation in the next steps. Yeah. Yeah, so somebody has the comment about traffic being lower to the golf course because of COVID-19 pandemic as compared to previous years.
Yes, and as we had mentioned, we don't want to delay this process indefinitely because we're not sure when we will be able to get to it then.
And somebody's asking, was there an adjustment to the numbers to account for 408, which has 39 more units coming in this year?
No, that would be also considered future problems, if any would arise. So we're only looking at what's a concern today.
Yeah, and 39 vehicles would not change the recommendations we propose. It's shortcutting wasn't the main issue that was verified by the data. It was more that the speeds that we're correcting. So I don't think 39 vehicles would, or 39 units would make any changes there. Somebody's asking what percentage of traffic is driven by the golf course?
We do not have that information at this time.
We didn't do a origin destination study. We just counted the vehicles on the street. For local streets, we typically expect, less than about 1,000 vehicles a day. And the volumes on Cartwright were in the typical range. Did I get that right, Katie? It is local?
It's a collector.
Collector, okay.
Cartwright's a collector. Yeah. And the volumes were within what's expected for a collector. Yeah,
for a collector, we expect up to something in the range of like 5,000 to.
Yeah, and we were below that.
Somebody asks, when would the next review be conducted to correct future concerns?
So this is actually our last year doing the neighborhood traffic review process. After, if there are future concerns, we have a traffic calming process, which I guess, Natalie, could you go over that process a little bit more clear for everyone?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. The traffic calming process, here, hang on, I'll just come back on the screen so you don't have to hear my disembodied voice. So the traffic calming process is for any neighborhood who's had a neighborhood traffic review that's been implemented. This is the process that's eligible to residents who have outstanding concerns related to speeding or shortcutting. So we would verify the issue, and if it's eligible, then we would consider traffic calming and work with the neighborhood to see the type of calming that would be appropriate. Typically, we start with horizontal traffic calming, like the median islands or curb extensions, and if that is not adequate to address the issue, then we would look at other measures like vertical deflections, speed humps, raised crosswalks, etc. But it's data driven, so it's not just based on people wanting calming, it has to actually be reflected by the data that we collect. So that's kind of how the traffic calming process works. But as Katie goes over next steps, what we would do to start is verify that what we're proposing in this traffic plan is working properly. So, let's see, there's a couple more comments and then maybe you can go over the next steps because it seems like we're getting some questions on those. Yep. Someone's asking, how is Cartwright a collector street? So I think collector is kind of defined as the streets that carry traffic out of a neighborhood. It's not just directly to the homes. So I think that's probably how it got classified as a collector. So I just misspoke by naming it a local. Is that right, Katie?
Yeah. The whole street is Cartwright. It is a collector, and it connects to arterial streets.
Yeah. Somebody's asking for an example of other collector streets. So there's in Stonebridge, a collector would be, what would be their collector? So like Willow Grove would be Stensrud Road. In Westview, it's like Richardson Road. I'm not sure how many examples to give. Like Main Street is considered a collector. Yeah, Stonebridge Boulevard. Stonebridge, I'm trying to remember which one is the collector. I think it's like Gordon Road and Hunter Road would be their collector. hopefully that gives you some examples to go by. And somebody says by planning, it means 22 meters of parking, etc. on both sides for a collector street. So I think we have some design standards that I can provide to you, Carrie, that goes over the different cross-section options for road streets. That's usually for new development. So obviously our design standards have changed as different developments come online. So I'm not exactly sure the standards that were in place when the Willows was originally developed. Maybe did you want to go over next steps, Katie? I'm not seeing any new comments come in, and I'll just keep monitoring this.
Yep, sounds good. So for the next steps, the next step will be to collect feedback on these recommendations. The comment period will be opened until April 16th, 2021. Once the comment period ends, we will finalize the traffic plan and prepare a report to present to the Standing Policy Committee on Transportation. The implementation stage includes the preparation of plans and installation of the recommendations. Signage and pavement markings and temporary traffic calming measures are typically installed within 1 year after presenting the report. The evaluation stage includes follow-up assessments to determine the effectiveness of the temporary traffic calming measures. Traffic calming measures that are deemed effective will be scheduled for permanent installation as funding allows. Traffic calming measures that are deemed ineffective will be modified or removed. This stage is dependent on stage 4 and will be scheduled to begin 1 year after the temporary traffic calming measures are installed, so that we can ascertain the effectiveness of the measures in all seasons. Yeah, so I just want to clarify there too, so that the concerns that were related to the median islands. So not only are we going to check with roadways before we put in the median island, but if we're seeing issues with the temporary installation, then we can revisit it at that time as well. So that's why we install them temporary, so we can kind of assess how they operate. So a couple more comments came in. Somebody's asking if Cartwright is a collector, where's the accommodation for parking on both sides? So not. That would have been one of the design standards that necessarily might have not been a standard when that street was built. Yeah,
we can try to provide more details on that. Maybe in the minutes we can clarify some of that road class requirements.
Yep.
And somebody's asking about a crosswalk at number 3 on the diagram. So I don't know, Mary Neal, can you go back to the slide? Number 3. So, number 3 is on the diagram that they got in the mail, I think, with the sidewalks.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. There's actually a crosswalk right near there, I believe. Where's the recommendation with number 3 on it?
I think it was the sidewalk, but I'm not exactly sure where the number 3 showed up on it. Yeah.
Yeah, the number 3 was between the 2 entrances into the residential areas. There is a crosswalk already at the 1 entrance into the residential area, so we don't want to put them closer than 200 meters to each other, because then they'd be too close and drivers would become desensitized to them and might not pay as much attention.
Okay, so somebody's asking about how the current survey about speed limit reductions, what effect does that have to this review? So I'm just going to post the link to that in the chat for those of you who aren't aware about it. So the speed limit review is kind of running on its own. It's separate from this project. Hang on, I'm just going to go live again. So the speed limit review is considering reductions on residential streets. So that's active right now. We're collecting feedback on that until the end of April. For the survey that's live right now, obviously we'll be collecting feedback beyond that point. But we don't know what council's decision will be. So the neighborhood traffic review and the recommendations are proceeding assuming the current posted speed limit of 50. And so we're trying to get people behaving to speeds less than 50, ideally. If council considers reduced posted speed limit, then we'll be looking at adjusting to those speeds as part of the implementation strategy for speed limit review rather than through the neighborhood traffic review process. Oh, looks like my internet dropped or something there. All right. So hopefully that answered that question. And somebody has a question about estimated cost of the revisions. Maybe we should put Katie back on the screen. Oh, you're on mute, Katie.
Sorry, the cost for the implementation plan, I'm assuming?
Yeah, for the three recommendations that you have, yeah.
Yeah, so the speed display boards, the cost would be fairly minimal. We have, the city has bought, I'm not sure how many exactly we have, and we just rotate them throughout different locations. So that cost will be minimal. The sidewalk, I have not calculated that cost yet. And I'm not sure.
Sidewalks are quite substantial. They're a longer term recommendation because it's not funded right now. We're working through how to prioritize those projects and get them through. So yeah, the cost is significant. We don't have an exact number today, but that would be included in the report to council when we present it. And the median island, I don't think you did that one, Katie.
Yes, I'll get you to go through that one, maybe Natalie.
Sure, yeah. So for the temporary median islands, we're usually looking at something like $500 because it's just the rubber curbing, and about $500 more maybe for the signs that go on the median island. When they go in permanently, if it's effective, it would be somewhere in the range of $5,000 to $7,000 for a median island. Someone's following up with that crosswalk comment for number 3. They said the crosswalk needs to be where the sidewalk on the south side moves over to the north side, near the east end by 501.
Okay. Yes, I'm not sure why we initially put the sidewalk at the location where it is, but I can follow up with that and see why it is where it is at the moment.
Yeah, and we can double check if a crosswalk is warranted for that location. We were reviewing for another location, which is where we had originally heard the concern, so we can take a look at this location as well. Someone's asking, what is the posted speed limit in the circle, in the roundabout itself?
I do not believe there's a posted speed limit on it. I don't know what the design speed is for it.
I'm not sure. It usually depends on the radius, like the inscribed circle of the roundabout, but they're usually designed so that drivers can't go above a certain speed, but we don't necessarily post it any differently.
Yeah, it's supposed to get uncomfortable if drivers go over a certain speed.
Yeah. So someone's asking if the reduced speed limit proposal is approved by the city, then the speed limit could be reduced on Cartwright Street. Possibly, yeah. So it depends how council decides to reduce the speed limits. So I'm just going to go out again. So we're not too sure if council will decide to do any type of street that has residential properties adjacent to it, or if they'll decide to do it by road classification. They might choose to do only local streets, they might choose to do local and collector streets, or any street with residential. We don't know yet if they'll consider a speed limit reduction, and if they do, what type of street will be eligible for it. We'll know more in the next few months. We're presenting our technical report in the next couple months, and then the decision reports will be later in the summer, early fall. So give your feedback on the survey. I think I did post the speed limit review link. There's an Engage page. There's an active survey right now, and we're just starting some of our marketing campaign this week. You might see some social media posts about it, and we're going to be doing utility bill inserts in early April as well. So we're trying to reach as many people as possible with that. We hear a lot of concerns from residents about speeding on their street, but then when we collect the data, it's not always verified that speeding is the problem. So it seems like some residents are uncomfortable even though people are driving the existing speed limit. So maybe the posted speed limit is too high on some of these streets. That's what we are hearing from some residents. So I'm just going to go back to my notes here. Was there anything else we needed to cover?
Just how they can get in touch with me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not seeing any new comments right now. So maybe go over that information, and then we can check in with the group again.
Yeah. So yes, if you think of any additional questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. We will post the meeting material, and we encourage you to share the information with your neighbors so that they also have an opportunity to participate. As mentioned earlier, we have multiple methods for submitting comments. You can post directly on the saskatoon.ca/engage page, subscribe for updates at saskatoon.ca/NTR, use the Report a Traffic Issue app, give me a call at 306-675-8782, send me an email to ntr@saskatoon.ca, or mail in a letter to me at City Hall. All of these details are shown on the screen, and you can also visit saskatoon.ca/engage. So I believe we got to all the comments tonight, which is great. We would
actually
also like,
sorry, Katie, there's another one that came in today.
Okay. Yeah.
So somebody's asking, would the data from this review influence the reduction if Cartwright Street is classified as a collector to Lorne? So the neighbor for the speed limit review, I believe, yes. So yeah, the neighborhood traffic reviews aren't influencing the speed limit review. They're completely independent. But the data that we're collecting from all the neighborhood traffic reviews are going to be consolidated and included in that technical report for the speed limit review. So not necessarily any one street. We're not going to that level of detail at this point. If council decides to proceed, then that'll be part of our implementation strategy, is how we roll this out and what gets signed, what's in, what's out. Yeah, we just don't know yet at this time.
Yeah, so I guess if there's no more any questions or concerns or comments, we would also like to get your opinion on how the online meeting went. Please let us know by filling out the online survey, which we will post in the Q&A forum.
Yep, I just got that in. So yeah, we'd love to get your feedback. We're always looking to improve our process, and we know online meetings they work for some people and not others. So if there's any feedback you can give us, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. So yes, thank you for taking the time to attend the meeting tonight. We really appreciate your participation.
Yeah, it looks like Councillor Lowen hasn't jumped in at any point, so I'm sorry everyone, she's not able to pipe in with her comments. But if you have any questions for Councillor Lowen, we can pass them on to her. And somebody actually is asking, when will the full recording of the meeting and the questions be available? Did you want to cover that, Katie?
Yes, so they will be available, I guess today's Thursday, likely Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, it takes us a little bit of time to get the closed captioning corrected, the transcript fixed up. So once we have that done, we'll get them posted. So thanks so much, everyone, for your participation. We can't complete these reviews, like I said, without you. The more of you and your neighbors we hear from, the more fulsome our traffic plan can be. So please feel free to pass that information along to your neighbors. And yeah, we look forward to finalizing the plan and getting it in front of committee. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great night.